Alright, so those are examples of this week's topic. Well, not this week. I made the last 3 videos today, but whatever. Of today's topic, scales. Now, scales are really one of the most basic, well, one of the most important parts of our musical vocabulary. They're how we think about, okay, I have a C chord. Well, let's use it better. I have a C chord. I can use all those notes because those are in the key of C, and I found those over my C chord. And really, scales are how, like, if you're, for example, if you're improvising, I give you, you're in A major, and I give you just, you know that, okay, it's just 2, 5, and 1. I know that I'm in A major. I can just go. Something like that, because I know that that's the right scale for the chord. And chords are going to be the next episode. Chords are fantastic and take a really long time to explain, but scales are fun and people use them a lot, and they're something great to practice, get dexterity up on whatever instrument it is and get your speed up on whatever instrument you're playing. I can use piano and guitar in these videos because those are what I play, but yeah. So I'm going to start off with major scales. Alright, so what I have here is our C major scale. We know, everyone pretty much knows this. It's probably the simplest scale that we have, well, besides, you wouldn't know actually, but pentatonic scale, because pentatonic scale doesn't have that in it. But this is one of our most simple scales. We can really use this as the basis for thinking about all of our other scales because it's really simple. We have a basic pattern. Every interval that we talked about, this is again building intervals. We have our perfect unison, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and perfect octave. Now, that means we don't really have to change anything. Nothing's minor, nothing's diminished or augmented, or there's no double flats or double sharps or anything weird like that. This is the simplest one we have. And you'll notice again, I put in here, I don't like to think about it like this, but I know people that do. So the way you build it starting on the root is you have your root, go up a whole step, another whole step, or go up, yeah, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, another whole step, and a half step. Now those are really the ways you can think about it. You can build with intervals, and you can build with steps, and you can also build with numbers. This is what a lot of jazz people do. You just think you have your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and your octave. We don't take the octave off. You only have 7 notes in your scale. You usually just repeat it, and you're like, oh, it's the octave, hooray! But so you're thinking, okay, I don't have to flat the third or anything. I don't have to flat or sharp the fifth or the sixth or the seventh. So it's really basic. And I put these fun words down here that you probably can't see. I'm going to zoom in. Those words right there. The first note of your scale, 1, assuming you're in this key, is the tonic. 5th is dominant. Your 7th is the leading tone. Those are what I feel the most important things because, your stereotypical, look at me, I'm a bass player. 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. That kind of stuff. And our leading tone always really sounds like it's trying to take us here, here, here. It's trying to, this last note, the seventh note, in this case, since we're in C major here, this B, is always trying to take us up that half step to C, because that's its job. That's why it's called the leading tone, because it always leads back to the tonic, leads back to 1. All right, so that is our major scale. Next, we're gonna have some fun, because we have 3 different kinds of minor scale. And I'm gonna write them all up here. Ta-da! 3 minor scales. We have our natural minor scale, our harmonic minor scale, and our melodic minor scale. And this is where things start to get complicated, because there's actually a difference between scales. Even though they're all minor, they all fit over this chord, and it's really up to whoever's writing the music and what they want to do, which of these scales is right, which is difficult. But we're going to start with the simplest one, the natural minor scale. In comparison to our major scale, we have to flat the 3rd note, so lower the 3rd note, the 6th note, and the 7th note. That would create, as you said, we know our major scale sounds like. This would create something that sounds more like. So that would be a difference there, because you can see here instead of we have, and instead of, you know, so those are differences between those 2 scales. We see again that in intervals we replace the major 3rd with a minor 3rd, replace the major 6th with a minor 6th, and the major 7th with a minor 7th. All right, and we have another pattern. We have whole, half, whole, half, whole, whole. No, it's whole, half, whole, half, whole. I'm sorry. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. It's the new pattern. I'll edit that out. But okay, so moving on to the next scale here, we have our harmonic minor scale. This one actually, in my opinion, is more useful than this guy up here, because they're pretty much the same. They both are the same up and down, unlike this guy, who we'll get to in a minute. He's crazy down here. But what this has is it has a major 7th. It has a natural 7th, so it has the same. So it'll sound, in comparison to our major scale, it'll sound. It's kind of cool, kind of out there a little. But what that has is the leading tone I was talking about before. It has that B natural. Since we're in C right now, it has that B natural. So it'll lead there, and it'll make everything sound more complete, make things sound like they're actually going somewhere, because, I mean, like the minor 7th, like we have in our natural minor scale, doesn't really sound like it's leading anywhere. People will disagree with me on that. That's what I think, though. We have a perfect unison, major 2nd, minor 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th, minor 6th, and a major 7th. And so we have another fun pattern. We have a whole, half, whole, half, minor 3rd, half. So, you know, our half step, whole step, we have something in here that'll go. So actually, if I put it in context, instead of going like we usually do in a major scale, or like we would in a natural minor scale, we are going to go. Sounds a bit off, right? It's pretty cool though. Then we're going to go to our last minor scale for today. There are some others that we're going to get into that you use when you're thinking about modes and chords, and you can build them, but those are much more complicated and require a little deeper thinking and some knowledge of chords. And we don't know chords yet because we're only on scales. So, melodic minor scale is a scale, one of the very few scales that is different when you go up and down, which I've never really understood. In a jazz setting, when you're using a melodic minor scale, you usually only use the ascending version because that's the one that's different. But so in comparison to our major scale, our melodic minor scale is going to sound like, has that minor third, remember, because they all have to fit into this chord. We have this major seventh again in a minor scale. But when we go down, so we went up, we have to go down like this first scale, the natural minor scale, which, as we remember, is when we go down. But when we go up, we just. And what that does is when you're going up, you pretty much play a major scale, but you have to lower the third. It has to have a lowered third, a flat 3. But it has a natural 6th and a natural 7th, as opposed to these other two minor scales that both have a flat 6th and a natural minor scale, which has a flat 7th. And like I said, when you're going down, you play a natural minor scale. And in jazz, like I was saying, they only really use the ascending one because it's different from the natural minor scale. Jazz musicians don't like natural minor that much. It's all about Dorian. Dorian mode is a different thing. That's a couple episodes from now, I feel like. We have another pattern. We have, so if we're going to go up, we have perfect unison, major second, minor third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, and major seventh going up. And then we have the same as a natural minor scale going down. So we'll have your minor seventh, minor sixth, perfect fifth, perfect fourth, minor third, major second, and our perfect unison again, back on C. And that gives us a really fun pattern down here of whole, half, whole, 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 half. And then going down, it's going to be this pattern up here, backwards. So going down, you're going to have whole, whole, half, whole, half, whole, whole. And those are your 3 basic minor scales. And there are quite literally thousands and thousands of scales. You can build a scale out of anything, as long as I come up with notes that don't really repeat that much. That's a scale. But those 4 scales that I've gone over today are really the most basic ones. There will be other episodes where I'll talk about things like that, like symmetrical scales and things with parallel motion and things like modes and bebop scales. But for today, those 4 scales, the most basic scales that we have. Next episode, which will happen at some point, I'm done making these today. Next episode is chords. Once again, if you have any chords you think are cool that you want to learn, any scales that you want to know more about, anything at all about theory or music, please comment, post, and please subscribe. Thanks.